Welcome aboard, Mr. Lasky.
Thank you, Captain. Are we headed for a squall?
Not an official one.
Sir, this is Commander Damon, Operations Officer.
How do you do, Mr. Lasky?
Fine, thank you.
And Lieutenant Perry, Officer of the Deck.
How do you do, sir?
Good, sir.
Mr. Lasky is going to be taking a look at how we do things here aboard the Nimitz.
We'll give you whatever help we can, sir.
Thank you.
Our departure was delayed 2 days at the request of your mysterious boss.
Well, I'm sorry about that, Captain, but I'm afraid Mr. Richard Tideman is as much a mystery to me as he is to the rest of the world.
2 days.
Okay, retro go. Fire, go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies and specifically talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 298, and our movie this week from 1980 is The Final Countdown. And here to talk with me about it, he had seen it and wanted me to watch it. It's Nizzbit. How you doing?
Hi, good. Yeah, no, this is when I was like, because I think you and I had talked about like briefly like time travel shenanigans like a while back, and it was something that you and I sort of like had a little bit of a discussion about, and you're like, hey, let's, wanted to see a couple, and I'm like, well, here's one for you that will have time travel shenanigans, and you had even were like, hey,
time travel shenanigans are fun, so this was a good choice. So what's your history with this movie? Because you brought it to me.
So this one stems from a couple things. Partly because I semi fell down a rabbit hole on IMDb, as one does. Because I had kind of wanted to see what else Martin Sheen had done other than, was it Apocalypse Now and West Wing? Because those were like those were the ones I was most familiar with him for.
Sure.
More West Wing than Apocalypse Now, but aside the point. But yeah, so this one came up on my radar. I had seen it and looked into it a little bit more and wound up finding it on the Netflix DVD when that was still its big thing.
Yeah.
And saw this and had realized it was also on Amazon Prime and turned around and went and watched it again. Like, oh yeah, I remember this now. Hey Travis. So
it's perfect. So I thought going into this, I had not ever even heard of this until you mentioned it to me. And I realized watching it for today, one other time I'd heard about it, but it just wasn't in the front of my mind. Because as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, I did very little research into the movie prior to watching it. I like to try and go in completely blind.
No, that's fair.
You had mentioned time travel shenanigans. I'm like, cool. Then I start watching it and I'm like, man, this plot sounds familiar as this is unfolding. Why is that? A podcast that I like to listen to, Film Sack, did this back in 2012. So I had heard about it from that. I may have even listened to that episode. I don't know. But whatever it was, like just completely out of mind. Like I didn't even think about it. So as I'm watching this, it was just very fresh, very new, and I dug it. It was silly, time travel-y goofiness, but it had fun with it, and it had a pretty cool cast, I have to say. Led by Martin Sheen, who was fairly fresh off. I think Apocalypse Now was what, late 70s, right? 70.
I want to say yes. So
wasn't too far along when they start filming this. But he also had Kirk Douglas in here, which I'll tell you, that was one that was pretty fun to see. Like he's
right.
I mean, Spartacus running your captaining your aircraft carrier is pretty good. And I liked him quite a bit in it. I recognized a few other people. I did afterwards look at the list, the cast in the IMDb, and I saw some names I definitely did not see, not catch while I was watching it. One of those was Lloyd Kaufman is apparently in here. I didn't didn't recognize him at all. So if he was, which I have to figure at this point, yeah, probably.
Yeah,
It's
and
been
his
long enough.
character's name is Lieutenant Commander Kaufman,
Which is great.
which is great. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes that's par for the course.
But I definitely didn't recognize him at all. So, you know, that happens. What were some of the other names in here? Catherine Ross. And then Charles Durning as Senator Sam Chapman. Love Charles Durning.
Yeah,
Love Charles
he's,
Durning.
he did a good job with that.
He did a great job with that character, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But also, I just love him as an actor. Like when he shows up and stuff, it just I adore him. You also had the Japanese pilot that we will talk about was played by Sun Tek Oh, and I also very much like him. So the movie itself is a pretty simple yet also kind of complex time travel-y story thing.
Yes.
Simple in the fact that it's like aircraft carrier in the Pacific in 1980.
Goes back to 1941. Yeah.
Like gets caught in a weird storm, ends up in 1941 for a brief period of time. Things happen, and then they come back to the present. It's a weird, like, that's it. It gets complex because it's time travel and there's paradoxes, but go ahead.
Yeah, but they also sewed that paradox up too at the end, if you noticed. Like, they made it so that it wasn't actually a paradox. It was, I forget the exact type of time travel that it would get classified as, but yeah, but they definitely made sure to not have a paradox in that movie, which was really cool.
I mean, did but also didn't in the same way. Like, it's time travel is always tricky. Like, anytime you're telling a story with time travel, you are immediately introducing plot holes and things. It's tough. Like, I've talked about that with every movie that I've done on this show that's dealt with time travel. Predestination was one. You know, even, I mean, Back to the Future's got plot holes all through it. It's just the nature of telling a time travel story. There's paradoxes and plot holes, and all of that's going to happen. Can't help it because of the way that we perceive time moving from A to B, right?
Yes.
So it's all very Doctor Who wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. What I like that this movie does is there's two ways to do time travel in my mind. Yeah. You go hardcore. I'm going to stick to what we believe to be plausible, a la Primer is an example of a movie that does that.
Okay.
Where it gets tough for that is it's incredibly dense and very difficult to explain. Or you don't do that, but you at least stick to some internalized rules. Yeah. And then the third option is you just do whatever you feel like. And that third option... the third option is tougher to sell, but it can work. I mean, Back to the Future plays fast and loose with its rules. Yeah. But it gets away with it because there's so much charm there. Doctor Who is the same way. And
there's still a method to that madness, and because it's if you think of like every decision you make as a tree, it's basically taking the path, one branch and basically going back, and then because of the causality, you're basically being forced to take a different path on that tree. Whereas something like Harry Potter, you're just jumping back. If you're jumping back a little bit on that tree, and still being forced to go back along that same path because of things have happened, and it's less you can affect it. It's more of you go back in time, just don't fucking cause any issues. Don't do anything. You can't cause things that didn't already happen.
Yeah, and that's the other tough part, right? Is like whenever you tell a time travel story, you inevitably will fall into the grandfather paradox of traveling back in time. And they mention it in this. I did like that because I didn't expect that conversation necessarily to happen. So Martin Sheen is Warren Lasky, He works
Yes.
for is it Tideman Industries?
Yes. Yep.
Tideman Industries helped design and build the aircraft carrier that he gets on, the Nimitz,
Yes.
which is captained by Matthew Yelland, played by Kirk Douglas. So
Yes.
Martin Sheen. So Lasky is a civilian. He has been tasked with going on this particular run of the Nimitz just to observe and check things out by Mr. Tideman, who at the beginning of the movie, we don't know who Tideman is whatsoever. He's very mysterious. So he gets on there and they go out to sea. And he is somebody who it's like an efficiency expert, basically. He's an analyst.
Yep. Correct.
And I like that his whole thing is like coming up with, well, I analyze what's going on and then I figure out if there are alternatives.
Alternatives or better ways. And it's
Yeah.
like, they're like, okay. Every other ship's like, okay, but we kind of already have run things well. It's like, why are you here? It's like,
Yeah. It's a little odd that he's there, but they go out to sea and they get out there and then there's a weird storm. Just pops up out of nowhere. The storm happens. Now, I'm gonna give the movie a little bit of a pass on the way that they, because of when it was made in the late 70s, the character of Black Cloud, who runs basically he's the weatherman on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
that
was a little yeah.
I may have captured
That
a
was-
bit of audio I'll play later involving that. But basically, this weird storm happens. They get caught in it. And afterwards, they're just floating there and they're like, what happened? What's going on? And nobody knows. And they can't raise anybody on the radio. They're getting weird radio signals that don't make any sense. They've time traveled. They're back in 1941 in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, and they don't realize it until they just think, oh, hey, Washington's just pulling a great big ass prank on us, all the way up until they send the Hawkeye out or the Sentry out to and go take pictures over Pearl to see what the hell's up, and all of a sudden they're like, oh wait, that's not right.
Yeah, and it's bonkers when you think about the fact that like they don't know what's going on, and they're trying to figure it out. So first instinct is like, okay, somebody's messing with us, or maybe there was a bomb, some sort of an event happened. They don't really know. I will say this: the movie takes a while to get going, and I read
It does.
afterwards.
It does.
I read some critic reviews because the movie did meh critically.
Yeah,
like it wasn't super well received. I think it actually made the list of worst movies of 1980 for Siskel and Ebert, which is a little harsh.
Yeah, this is a little harsh because I'm sure there's worse ones, but yes.
But it takes a while to get going. Now, I don't
does.
mind it because it lets me learn about these characters. And ultimately, that's what the movie is really about, because they end up in 41. They're slowly trying to figure out what's going on. They figure out what's going on. They eventually do come to the realization, oh crap, we're in 1941. We're in the Pacific Ocean in 1941, the day before Pearl Harbor, because that was the date they went back to, was December 6th, 1941. And then they're like, well, we got to do something about this. Well, can we do anything? And there's like a little bit of a philosophical debate. And before they can really do anything, the storm reappears.
Yep.
So it's interesting in that way. You know what this felt like to me? And my note writing down right after I finished watching it, this felt like a like Robert Heinlein style sci-fi short story, like a pulp story.
Very much feels that way, yes.
And it felt like
it very much feels that way.
It felt like a pulp story that they stretched out to an hour and a half. And it also did give me a little bit of TV movie feeling to it, which I'll kind of get to why that is. But that's sort of the feeling I got, like this really cool idea short story concept that they just stretched out and made into a full length feature film. Do you kind of get that same feeling?
Yeah, I did actually when I first watched. I mean, I didn't necessarily catch on first when I first watched it, but I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, the second and this time around too, I was oh yeah, no, this has a very short story feeling to it, much like the Curious Case of Benjamin Button did.
Yeah.
Because that one, I mean, you knew going in that it was, but there are still some clear similarities with pacing and everything else and whatnot that says that no, this probably could have started off as a sci-fi short story turned into a movie,
Yeah. If you
which
had
is
told
fine.
me,
Which is fine.
yeah, if you had told me this
Which is-
was out of a pulp novel, a pulp magazine from like the 60s or something, and got reworked a little bit and made into this movie, I would believe you, because it's
Yeah.
just that's the feeling of it. Like, oh, aircraft carrier goes back in time, comes back.
100%.
Because nothing, outside of that, nothing. They don't affect anything. Which, again, in a time travel story, you kind of it's either going to change everything or you have to have it not
Right.
affect everything.
They well, I mean, they technically did. I mean, if you listened, because according to their original timeline that they had known, and this is where you can kind of tell where what they went through wasn't. It was a mishmash of the predestination and the other one, and I forget which one it is. What the term for it is, but because in the original timeline they had even mentioned of this that the senator had died in the original timeline.
He mysteriously disappeared.
Disappeared, which
Because
for
that's
the
the
most
thing.
part,
Okay, so
yeah.
question for you: when dealing with time travel, are you when you're dealing with time travel, do you kind of fall into the predetermined or deterministic style where it's like it doesn't matter what happens when you go back in time, things are going to play out the way that they're supposed to, or do you think more in the branching style?
I tend to think more in the branching style, although I do know that the deterministic is technically possible, but I also do believe more in the branching tree.
Because it starts to bake your noodle a little bit when you start to think about even in a branching situation, because they talk about this at the time that the captain and what is it, Commander Thurman, played by Ron O'Neill, and Commander
Yeah.
Owens, played by James Ferrantino,
Yep.
and Lasky and Yelland are all sitting
Mhm.
around trying to wrap their heads around this time travel idea.
Oh, yeah.
Lasky brings up the grandfather paradox, and he's like, well, if I travel back in time and I meet my own grandfather and I accidentally or on purpose kill him, then
Yeah.
how am I ever born to go back in time in the first place? So you get that whole
Yeah.
paradox going on.
Yeah.
And this movie is that paradox because
It is.
we go through all the events. So when they first land or when they first go back in time, they're like, well, we got to figure out what's going on. So they're sending out recon planes and they're checking things out, right? They're sending somebody to Pearl. They're
Yeah.
they're looking for, there was a Russian trawler
Mhm.
ship that they're trying to find. They get a radio or a radar contact. They go check it out. All this stuff's going on.
Yeah.
And then when they figure out everything that's happening, they decide they're going to send their planes to stop the Japanese fleet.
Yeah.
But on their way there, the storm shows up. So they call the planes back.
It's back. Yep.
When they come back into present time through the storm, everybody comes back, right? Except for one person. And everything is reset. But because of that, we know it's that whole paradox of like, okay, but, and you can really just kind of like wind yourself right into a little ball if you think about it.
Yeah. This one, if you try, for me, this was hey, this is a cute little time traveling adventure. I really wasn't looking more into it, when I first watched it the first couple times. But like even this one, it's like I didn't. I knew if I tried to wrap my head around the type of time travel that they were doing, my brain would explode, like actually explode. And I wasn't willing to put myself through that. So it's like, okay, this is a time travel thing. I know it is. I know there's probably a paradox. I'm okay with that in this one instance, because if I try to figure this out and unravel that ball, it is going to become a very, very nasty, tangling mess that is very much a timey-wimey, fucky-wucky. And no, I didn't want to put my brain through that.
Yeah, because
I still don't.
It's the type of thing where, so obviously spoilers, sorry, but at the end of the movie, they come back to present time. Lasky gets off the boat, and he's met by Mr. Tideman. And who's Mr. Tideman, Nizzbit?
Commander Owens.
Commander Owens, who was the one person, along with Laurel, who didn't come back on the aircraft carrier because in the events that happened. So, all right. Ship goes back in time. They're doing recon. While they're doing all this recon and figuring out what's going on, they find a wooden yacht out in the Pacific. And it's Charles Durning's character, Senator Chapman, his aide, Laurel, and a couple of other people. And they were just out in the Pacific Ocean.
The boat captain and it looked like it was a friend of his.
Yeah, some creepy dude named Arthur. He was total creep master. And then like an extra guy, but they're on their yacht, kind of just doing stuff. And I mean, I say yacht, it's just a boat. Yeah. And they're attacked by some Japanese Zeros, which a couple of F-14s try to intervene, but they blow the boat up. And Senator Chapman and his aide Laurel are the only ones that survive. The captain of that boat, his friend Arthur, and like the servant dude or waiter guy, whatever his name was, they all get shot by the Zeros.
Technically, no. So actually, I don't know exactly when you remember watches, but having rewatched it just this afternoon. No, actually, they were ordered to not interfere until after, and then they were only given the okay to interfere after the boat was blown up, when the Zeros were about to strafe them and actually kill them for real.
That's true. Yes. But
sorry, a little bit of nitpicking point of contention. Sorry.
But either way, like they're the only ones left, so they get rescued.
Yeah.
And they're brought back to the boat.
And the dog.
Yeah, and the dog Charlie, which was important. That was very important to me that the dog survived.
Yes, it was.
I have several notes about the dog. Mostly are, where's Charlie? Okay, good. Charlie's fine. Look, it's a thing for me. All right, the dog's got to live. That's why.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you, because like even for me, watching it the first time, like, oh god, is the dog gonna be okay? Mm-hmm. What's happening with the dog? It's like it's just this minor character thing that you just all of a sudden become way more invested in than the whatever else is going on, because it's the one same thing during the entire movie.
Yeah, it's why Michael Myers is the worst slasher killer, because he kills dogs all the time. He's terrible. So anyway, but the senator and his aide are rescued along with one of the Japanese Zero pilots and brought back to the boat. And after stuff happens, which we'll get to, because I do want to talk about that particular scene, but the senator and his aide are going to be taken. Senator wants to go to Pearl Harbor and talk to people, and the captain's like, "All right, fine, well, you can go," but he tells his people, "No, including Commander Owens, take them to this island." Yeah. And so that's how Commander Owens and Laurel end up on that island, because they go there, and when they get there, Senator Chapman's like, I ain't taking this. This ain't Pearl Harbor. And grabs a flare gun and tells them, no, you will take this chopper to Pearl Harbor right now. And after a struggle ensues, the whole thing blows up. I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, I figured something would happen that would cause them to, like, either end up on an island somewhere or something, so that Durning's character of Chapman and Laurel know something went down, but don't know what. Yeah. But I didn't expect that he was going to die in a helicopter explosion. And Laurel and Owens are left on the island.
Technically, Chapman didn't die. I don't think.
No,
Or
he
did
died.
he did?
Unless he could survive an exploding
Oh,
helicopter
okay.
from inside
For
the
some reason,
helicopter.
I don't remember. For some reason, I always don't think about that scene too hard. For some reason, don't know why.
But yeah, at the end of the movie, we learned that Owens and Laurel did survive, and he became Mr. Tideman.
Yes,
Which does bring everything back around full circle, right? And kind of ties it all up. Because
does.
the audio clip I played at the start of the show, the captain mentions, "Oh, our mission, our set off was delayed by 2 days by your Mr. Tideman."
But yep. Which, when you initially are at the beginning, it's because they needed to get Lasky out there. It took 2 days for him to get out there. Whatever, It's fine. And then once you get back, it's like, at the end you're like, oh no, he needed them to wait those 2. Sorry, he needed to wait the 2 days because Timon knew that. Sorry about that. Because Timon knew remembered about the time hole thing. So
Yeah.
It gives the whole beginning a little bit of a different spin on everything.
It does, and it's where the paradox really comes into play, because
it does.
Tideman has to send them back at the time that he does in order for them to go and hit that storm.
Yep.
But the storm would have already, all of this would have already taken place to allow for that to happen. So it's this circular, you could just fall down the hole.
Yep.
What you do in a movie like this, as soon as you figure out kind of what's going on with time travel, is just throw the logic out the window, because it has no place here. And that's fine. What you're then looking for is, does it tell an interesting story? Okay, because time travel by its very nature is going to have all sorts of plot holes and issues and logical fallacies.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. And it did. I think it did.
Fine. It made it work, and it worked with that whole fallacy, thing correctly. And it did it so that it caused a loop where things had to happen for the thing to happen, so the things could, for that wonderful nonsense. And
go ahead.
It still, the adventure itself was still, a fun piece of it too. So
yeah, what I will say is the title makes no sense to me at all. The Final Countdown.
No, it doesn't. No, it makes no sense.
I don't get what that was about at all. I understand if there was some sort of a timing thing that they had in the plot, but there really wasn't. It was just somebody decided, this sounds like a good title.
I have a feeling that there's probably a few scenes that got left on the cutting room floor that probably would have explained it, is my feeling.
It's very
that
possible.
Somebody said, oh no, this isn't important to the plot. It's like, no, it may not be important to the plot, but it does explain the title. So,
and I do think maybe that could be, because, I mentioned the movie didn't do great with the critics. The critics are lukewarm on it at best. Box office wise, it was a $12 million budget-ish. Kind of made its budget back in terms of the domestic grosses, around 16 million. Not a huge hit by any stretch.
Yeah.
But not a abject failure either. But I wonder, in some ways, because I wasn't around for the marketing of this. This would have been a year before I was born. So I don't know what the marketing was like, especially in that era. But the Final Countdown doesn't tell you anything about this movie. And when you get done watching it, you're like, I don't understand what the Final Countdown has to do with that at all. But also, I mentioned this earlier, this felt very kind of made for TV ish in the way it was presented. You said you got that feeling too. What gave you that feeling? What gave you that sort of made for TV vibe with this?
I mean, the very I'm this is probably the worst way to put it, but this is just the first way that comes into my mind. It had a very overly wholesome feeling to it, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It had a very like Hallmark-esque feeling to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see
And
that.
that's like, okay, no, this was probably meant to be made as a TV movie, but wasn't. But yeah, that was probably the biggest thing is the overall the entire film had this Hallmark-esque feel to it, where it's like, okay, well, it's things are gonna work out correctly. Nobody's going to, with the exception of like one person, nobody else is going to die.
Yeah. I think
Or,
too. Now there were a couple people that did get killed in it, which did
Yeah.
surprise me.
True.
And the other reason it kind of had that feeling. So one I was impressed by is the footage that they got of
Yes.
things like the F-14s, of
Mhm.
aerial maneuvers. That didn't feel made for TV to me. Although there were a couple moments where they reused stock footage or footage from other war movies. That gave it that feeling. But the actual like aerial dogfights and the stuff on the deck of the aircraft carrier and all of that. This is 6 years before Top Gun.
Yeah.
That this movie comes out. So 6-7 years before Top Gun is filmed, they're doing this. It was impressive stuff. But kind of script and sort of dovetailing on what we said earlier about it having that short story feel. It was that short story made for TV movie type of feel. You kind of nailed it pretty well. It's sort of, everything's hunky dory. The military is given, and you can kind of tell like the Navy definitely was backing this a little bit.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, and to be fair, the entire thing was shot on the Nimitz.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Right.
that kind of, and it was done with the entire, with the cooperation of everybody involved. So it's like, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah. So you're not going to shed a bad light on the Navy. Okay. I get that. It's semi World War II, but I think what gives it that made for TV movie feeling is there's no stakes.
Yeah.
And it just sort of has this like, well, some things happened.
Yeah.
But that's it. Because they don't affect anything when they go back in time, really.
Yeah.
They do, but they don't, because we find out by the end that, well, what they affected is what caused it. So there's also like hand wavy away of what this storm is at all.
Yeah.
Which I do feel like a feature film doesn't have to. Again, you don't have to explain everything to me, but they don't even touch on. It's just a weird phenomenon, which is fine. I actually kind of like that aspect of it, just being like this weird freaking thing, freak storm happened, and we went back in time, and then it happened again, and we came back forward, and we can't explain any of that. I kind of like that aspect of it, but it does have the feeling of that movie of the week. Now, part of that too, direction. The director of this film, Don Taylor, I looked him up, and you know what he was known for?
What?
Whole lot of TV shows and TV movies.
That would do it.
This was
that would do it.
So he was born in 1920, passed away in 1998. So 78 years old when he passed. This was the last theatrical feature film he did. Was this movie? After this, everything he did was TV movies and TV series. Most of what he did before this was TV movies and TV series, with a few feature films sprinkled in there. One of which was, which of the planet? Escape from the Planet of the Apes, 1971.
Okay.
But of his 97 credits as a director, looking through it when I did, I would say probably less than 10 were feature films for theatrical release. The rest were TV movies and TV series. And so he kind of, I don't know any of this, but it kind of had that feel of like, sort of the gun for hire director of like, hey, this guy can put content out, and he can work probably for relatively inexpensively. And he's adequate. And I think that's kind of what you got here in this movie. This movie isn't going to blow your doors off by any stretch, but it was well constructed. And I think it was given some extra oomph with Kirk Douglas and Martin Sheen, as your two leads. But it does kind of have that weird flat feeling of like nothing happens. And that just sort of is it's interesting that way, right? Like a lot happens and yet nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Yeah. A lot happens, but nothing of consequence actually happens during the movie.
Yeah. I would say there's a lot of stuff going on without anything actually happening.
Yeah. It's
the movie equivalent of using a whole lot of words to say nothing, which I'm really good at as a podcaster. So, but here's the thing. It's not bad either. Like, I think it's watchable.
It really wasn't bad. It's very watchable. I mean, and even when I watched it the first time, I was watching it, but also I had it on as background noise. Because that's what I did with a lot of the movies I'd get from Netflix, way back when. It was, I would literally pick out a couple of movies that I could just play, have it on in the background, like while I'm like on my computer, doing other things. Yeah, and this is just one of those. But also happened to catch my attention a little bit more because, hey, time travel, fucky lucky.
Yeah, I mean, time travel stuff is always fun for me. So you're going to get me in the door with something that deals with time travel because I like just weird. I mentioned this, but it's a slow build. So if you know that ahead of time, I think it's a little bit easier because I can see people getting bored with this pretty quickly because even when they go back, like after the time travel part of it, there's a long period where we're just getting sort of military, like, all right, send some planes out and find out what's going on. Ooh, that's weird. Send some more planes out and find out what's going on. Ooh, that's also weird. We get a lot of that. And it's not bad, but there's just not a lot of there. So I feel this, everybody complains about remakes and, no new ideas and all that. What do you think about taking this story, the broad strokes of this story, and remaking this today?
I think that the CGI probably would have been a whole hell of a lot better if it was redone today. I also think that they would find it a way to make it not so made for TV movie-ish. So I think this is probably one of those where it would probably benefit from a remake.
See, I think so. I'm with you. I think so.
This would definitely be one of those rare ones where it would actually benefit from a remake. However, I would probably change the title because the title makes no sense.
No, the title doesn't.
At least find a way to make, or at least put something in the movie to make it make sense.
The tricky part of remaking something like this is you have to add to it without overstuffing it or making it too melodramatic. But I think
it's
that
possible.
it definitely is possible. And I think there's some good bones there and some good structure that could be really interesting. But I do also think if you were to remake this, it still needs to be sort of smaller budget. Yes. I don't think you remake this as like a $250 million blockbuster.
No. You leave it small budget. You just stuff in a couple more things and call it a day.
All right. Imagine the team. Did you see Godzilla -1?
Yes.
Okay, so imagine that team making a movie like this, right? Because they made so much.
Yeah.
Because the budget for that is minuscule for Godzilla -1, but it looks so much better.
The way I think if you had a team like that, I think that they could make it a blockbuster appearing without being a blockbuster cost.
Right, because they also managed to make you care about the characters, because that's the other thing here. We spend so much time with them, and you do care to an extent, but we need more development and more things moving on.
Yeah.
We need that plot moving forward so that we care about Lasky and Yelland and Laurel and Chapman and Owens. Like, focus on them, and that's what we need. We don't need a scene of like the chief of the boat telling the guys, "Hey, you'll learn something when we know it." Like, we don't need that necessarily.
Yeah.
We don't need a third montage of them doing stuff on the boat, preparing for a thing. So you can kind of trim some of that down and give us a little bit more. But I think this would be a great thing to take the bones of this story, flesh it out a little bit more, keep it at that tight hour 30 to hour 40. Right?
Yeah.
Don't make it longer.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be
Don't.
a sprawling epic, because it's not, but make it this fun, because keep it that short story feel.
Yeah.
Just flesh it out a little bit more. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah.
Plus, as you mentioned, visually, I think it could look more interesting, because you could make something with that time travel look really cool.
Yes.
They were limited back then. They didn't have computers. They didn't have a
Yeah.
lot of the digital stuff to be able to extend a lot of that. But they were, I mean, what they did looked great. Like those zeros.
Oh yeah. No, those weren't actually zeros either. Those were converted planes.
Yeah, but they looked great.
And yet they looked great.
And they didn't
And
have
it's
to
funny 'cause-
show much of them.
Yeah.
They didn't have to show much of the Japanese Navy
Yeah.
to get the point across.
Well, and it's funny too, because like sort of on the technical side, like the converted planes that were playing the zeros were flying at like the fastest they could, but in order to keep everything together in the shots, the poor Tomcats were having to fly at stall speed.
And it was hilarious. I loved that.
It's you look at where the wings are. It's like, oh yeah, you can kind of tell that just to play with them, they're having to sit there at stall speed and like having to like not dick around too much and like having to like play feather. Play chicken.
I dug
with
that. That cracked me up
throttle.
reading that. I also loved the thing I read about there's a sound when one of the F-14s dives and then pulls out at the last second right before the water. They added in this like screaming sound. And that was partially the sound of the plane and partially the sound designers showed some of the footage to the pilot's wife, and she apparently screamed. And they used that. And I love that. I mean, I'm a fan of sound design stuff anyway. Like, I love hearing all the stories of Ben Burt, doing all that kind of stuff. So when I hear those things, it just cracks me up. Okay.
So I did have to go and take a look because I was like, I realized watching it this afternoon that because I couldn't remember his name, that the pilot, the captured Japanese pilot, looked insanely familiar to me, and it kept bucking me like this afternoon. So like while we've been talking, I've been sort of on the sly, not really on the sly because the camera, you can see it on the camera a little bit, but I had to go back and look it up, and the actor was in MASH.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, if you were an Asian American actor in the 70s, you were on MASH. Like, that's like being from the United Kingdom and during the era of Game of Thrones. You were in Game of Thrones. It's just compulsory.
It just happened. Yeah.
No, Soon-Tek Oh, who played Samura, the Japanese pilot, or Zero pilot, I should say. Because let's face it, he doesn't look Japanese at all. No. He's clearly Korean. And Soon-Tek Oh was born in Korea. But I did like
it. Still works. It still works.
It does work
because given the time frame, it actually still works with him being Korean.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it is still very accurate that way, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, which is really cool. I actually really like that part of it. And he's a fantastic actor anyway. Whether it was MASH, I remember him in an episode of Highlander because he showed up in that. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's got a charisma about him that I really, really like. So that worked. And his scene, he basically has one scene in this. I mean, there's the dogfight fighter pilot part.
I was gonna say he technically has two because they bring him across the flat top into the thing before you get to the main his main scene. But yeah,
But like he's basically, you know, just sort of background, like he's in a couple of scenes, and then but his main scene is things happen. He gets a hold of a machine gun, mows a couple of Marines down, right? Sailors.
Yep.
I guess they would be Marines. And then we get a whole scene of him talking to everybody in Japanese before they can get the translator over the radio. And it's actually a pretty tense scene.
It is.
And I liked number one, the way it played out with no subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very inspired choice, in my opinion.
Yes, it was a very good choice
Because you get the feel of everything that's going on with him through just his body language and his mannerisms. We don't need the translation there until we bring in the translator, and then he can do it, and we get that. So I like that a lot.
I think it was also a good choice because even without, because I think one, the subtitles would have been distracting. Two, you can like even without the subtitles, you can kind of guess what he's most likely yelling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you at that point you don't really need translation or subtitles for that because you kind of know what you can, you know, reasonably guess what the hell he's saying.
Yeah,
you know. So.
Also, I will say this. So I mentioned earlier how I did not expect Senator Chapman to not make it through this movie. Similarly, I did not see him getting gunned down coming.
Ah, okay.
Like because they sort of set you up for that, but then the situation gets resolved, or sort of they dissolve the tension a little bit, and then it comes right back up, and he gets shot, and a couple other guys. The second they cut to that guy in the background starting to move, that Marine there, I was like, oh, okay. Well, this is going to get dumb and people are going to get shot now. Cool. Good job, buddy. And at that point I knew it. But up until then, I figured something was going to happen, that they would just send him off on his way or leave him marooned somewhere. But that was a great scene. And it does kind of give us just sort of, that's the most tense scene in the movie, and it does kind of push things along. So, you know,
in a very nice way too, for that matter.
Yeah. I did capture a few audio clips if you want to hear them.
Yes, please.
It wasn't an eminently clippable movie, but there were a few moments. I just loved this. Go ahead.
I knew going into this that there probably was going to be a whole lot that was going to be clippable for you, and I do apologize for that. I probably should have warned you, but
I mean, look, that happens. Some movies, like I have movies that are in foreign language that it's hard to get audio clips for because you know it just is, or moments in a movie that are visual based. I'm not going to get an audio clip for, but you know there was still some stuff to clip here. I loved. Look, Kirk Douglas. All right, Kirk Douglas is just...
He was fantastic in this movie. Like, he really was.
And he's having a good time, and he's doing well. I did read he had a little bit of issue with the director. There was a little butting of heads that went on, which I can kind of get. His son, by the way, was one of the producers, Peter Douglas, who was one of the producers of the movie and also had a small role in the movie, which I didn't realize until after I watched it. There's a scene... before I get to the clips, there's a scene where they come into the bridge and they've got the radio playing, and they start looking at the photos, and the captain says to the guy, like, all right, you get the hell out of here, kind of thing. And so that dude leaves the room, and then the next scene is him sitting with some of the other sailors like, dude, we're at war, because I just saw some weird stuff. That was Peter Douglas, Kirk Douglas's son.
Really?
Yeah. One of his sons, because Michael Douglas, I know.
Yeah.
I did also read Kirk Douglas wanted Michael Douglas to play the role of Warren Lasky, but he was busy in a promotional tour, and he couldn't do it. He was whether or not that's true, but I just thought it was cool that his other son produced this movie and also had a small role. But he's great. Kirk Douglas is awesome, and I just love the delivery of this when he's talking to Lasky for the first time. So I played the clip at the beginning of the show where Lasky's getting introduced to a couple of the officers, And we get the whole like, hey, your boss delayed us by 2 days. But then Captain Yellen does tell him this.
I'd be delighted if you joined me for dinner.
Why not?
It's like, yeah, why not? Well, I mean, even for a civilian, it's like, okay, that's not really a request.
Yeah. This isn't.
It's like,
I'd be delighted, and you will be there
yeah.
if you join me for dinner. So,
Yep.
man, Lasky as a character gets his cabin, which, by the way, I know that a lot of this was shot with the Nimitz. Were the cabins that big, or was that a set? Like, I feel like that was a set because that.
I feel like that probably part was a set.
That had
There's
to be
no
a set,
way
right? Because like that
Yeah.
cabin was huge.
Huge, especially for an aircraft carrier where you have to have like 5,000-6,000 people or however many
Right.
people are on there.
There's a reason why I didn't go into the Navy. It's because I'm 6'4", and I don't want to get stuck in a submarine or an aircraft carrier where I'm like, I already have bad enough posture.
You wouldn't have been able to.
No,
Anyway, you're too tall.
Once I hit like
me being 5'5", I would have been like they would have stuffed me into a can or a sardine can, or they would have stuffed me into a plane if my eyes had been good enough.
you could have been a pilot. I was too tall to be a fighter pilot. But that cabin was just huge. But they put him into the cabin, and then what's he do? He finds like, was it a shared bathroom? Was that what that was in between the two cabins?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it was like the old college dorms where you'd have like a dorm room, shared bathroom.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah.
But he sees the other door open, so he just goes and starts rifling through dude's stuff.
It's like what on earth? It's like, why would you do that? But it's like,
what are you doing, Lasky? But Owens comes in and they have their little conversation, and I did like this.
Well, there are always alternatives, Commander.
There are always alternatives.
Mhm. Yep.
That line of dialogue right there tells you everything you need to know about the character of Warren Lasky.
Yes.
Everything in one line.
It does. It really does. And then I don't know if this was Martin Sheen, because there was that one. I think they were out on the deck still, but he had the very commanding sounding. Martin Sheen had that very commanding sounding voice,
Mm-hmm.
and it, like this afternoon when I was rewatching, I was like, that is very. I don't know if he was drawing on that part of him when he was doing West Wing, or if this was just sort of the glimpse of that scene was just sort of the glimpse of what was yet to come for Martin Sheen. But like,
Could be.
it was a very, very commanding and like almost presidential sounding like way that he did line. I don't remember the line off the top of my head, and I don't want to go
either, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was just one of those moments where it was like, okay, clearly, but yeah.
So then there's this exchange. This is after they go through the storm. So the storm racks up, right? Out of nowhere, basically. They were like, oh, we've got clear skies. Wait, what's this? It's getting dark and there's weird storms going on, which I did like. I liked how that, again, the slow burn of this movie worked at that point because they took some time with this storm of like, as scenes were progressing, things were getting a little bit darker,
Yep.
and all of that. But everything happens. They end up, they're in the past now. They don't know it yet. And then Lasky comes up to the bridge and he talks to the captain and he just says,
Hey, what happened? Frankly, I don't know.
that's not what I want to hear from my captain
Right
at all. I don't want to hear, I don't know.
I think they went for the bridge because otherwise, without the PA going, because otherwise everybody would be,
Well, and then it's followed up by, he's like, all right, get me all the department heads. We're going to meet. And so they get all into a room. And the first thing he says to him is,
We're at general quarters because I don't have any idea what's happened.
I don't want to hear that. Like,
I want to hear that.
I am running, whatever department I'm running on this boat, and I'm pooping myself now because it's like, what the captain doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. What is going to happen? Is fantastic. Like, again, that's Kirk Douglas being Kirk Douglas.
Oh,
Like, he just delivered those lines perfectly.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on.
I don't know if it was just him being him, but like he fit the role of the captain of Matthew Young like really well. Like it was one of those, okay, he just stuck to the role and just did it.
Certain people have that cool about them, right?
Yes.
Like there's that charisma, that just effortless cool. Kirk Douglas had that,
Yes.
right? Denzel Washington has that,
Has that.
you know? And whatever the situation is, like he just always seems, I don't know, there's just something authentic about him. This one was a little bit before that, but I think this is Commander Thurman, so the XO of the boat.
Perhaps the fact that
okay.
Tideman helped design and build this ship affords him some special privileges.
That's what it was, because they were
Yeah.
trying to figure out like what made them delayed and Lasky being on the boat, and it's because Tideman, the mysterious Mr. Tideman, designed it.
Yep.
I just like that delivery, and I liked Commander Thurman because Thurman was the guy that's all of us when this is going on. He's the one so our main core is Captain Yelland, Warren Lasky, Commander Owens, Commander Thurman. And Commander Thurman is the one that is like, I don't know what's going on. I am confused by all of this. I don't like it. It makes my brain hurt. Which is what we're all thinking.
Us too.
Exactly.
It's like, it was just, yeah.
So I liked him a lot. Okay, I mentioned this earlier. It was a different time, everybody. All right, it was a different time. Because the storm is happening. The storm wasn't predicted to be happening. So Captain Yelland calls up his guy that's watching the weather, who happens to be, goes by the name of Black Cloud. And we get this exchange.
Black Cloud, you've been doing unauthorized rain dances again, huh?
All right, in the remake, we're cutting that part out.
Yes, 100%. We are cutting that part out because it's like, it was one of those. The first time I watched it, I didn't get it. The second time I watched it, I got it, didn't like it. This time around, I skipped that part. I'm like, no, I don't need to see that again.
It was one of those where it's just like, okay, I understand, and it was the era this was made in was very different, but oof,
Yep,
that
they
one.
could have done that just a little bit different. That I think that line more than anything else is telling of when this got made.
Yeah, it
More
was
than
just
any other. That is the one line that is telling about what era it was made in.
Because we would just be more. I'm not saying that in the military people wouldn't say that still, because it's probably. I mean, let's be real. Soldiers are. Well, they're a brash group, but
Yes. Ballsy too sometimes.
in a film, you would be a little. All I'm saying is, that would be cut out of my remake.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed.
I like when they're looking at the photos, and they get the recon photo of Pearl Harbor, and Lasky's like, "You might want to get Commander Owens and have him bring down the photos from his book because you might want to see that." And they look at them, and it's not like we're looking at a similar photo of Pearl Harbor. We're looking at the same photo.
It's like, it's like, like, I figured, oh, hey, I remember thinking the first time I watched this, it's like, oh, hey, whatever. It'll make it to the future somehow, make it to the library somehow. It's fine. Second time, I realized after I watched the movie, the second time I watched it, I'm like, occurred to me, I don't know if that's the same photo, I don't know how it got there. Because Owens did not take that fucking photo with him when he left.
No, he didn't. He didn't. But I loved Captain Yelland looking at the two photos and just saying,
You're saying that these are both photographs of Pearl Harbor on December the 6th, 1941?
No, Captain, I'm saying it's the same photograph of Pearl Harbor. It's the same photograph.
Oh, no.
Ah, that was good. But then they're talking about it all, and you get Lasky's just like,
Excuse me, Captain, but we also have to consider one alternative possibility.
What's that?
The possibility that what's happening here is real.
I mean,
Yeah.
listen, Occam's razor, right?
Yep.
Eliminate everything else, and the most like the simplest answer is probably the right one. We traveled back in time, sir. I don't know what to tell you. We're in 1941. How? Don't know. Why? Don't know.
Yeah.
But we're here. So then later on, when you get this might have been my favorite.
Now track and report all movements with the Japanese task force.
Aye, aye. You still think it's a dream?
It's a nightmare.
It's a total nightmare. That is the most real moment there, because the captain is doing exactly what the captain needs to do, which is keep everything under control, keep everybody doing what they're supposed to do. But internally, Captain Yellen is like, what the hell is happening?
Yep. And it's funny too, because it's kind of also telling, like, when we're doing this episode and compared to how old this movie is, because everything except for the Hawkeye, everything else from the Navy it retired out from the Navy.
Yeah.
It's like, but that was also the height of when those planes were all active.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, well.
I do think it's really funny that the Nimitz was an Atlantic aircraft carrier until after this movie came out. And a few years later, it got transferred to the Pacific Fleet. Thought that was funny. They filmed everything, I think, around Key West.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, probably. It's also funny because it's like the one telling thing. It's like also that I think in the remake, I also would not be having that carrier go through that on its own, because there's no way on God's green earth that an aircraft carrier would be left to its own devices like that.
Oh, no, not at all. No.
Like, that just throws,
I know that.
I'm sorry, but that was like the one thing that threw realism out the window.
Right.
Is that one, like, realism got defenestrated like right then and there as soon as the thing did not have any of the destroyers go through.
Yeah, like I know dick about the military, and I know that an aircraft carrier doesn't just float around on its own. Like, it's got support ships because it's too big. It's too big to be out there on its own. It needs that.
It's too much of a target. Because I'm sorry, I'm sure even the Japanese had subs.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, oh absolutely. All right, so when we meet Senator Chapman, played by Charles Durning, he's getting a speech presented to him by his aide Laurel, played by Catherine Ross, and his super creepy friend Arthur.
I've yet to figure out who played Arthur.
I don't know. I don't really want to know. I didn't like the character. It was just, that was the other. So there was the joke about Black Cloud and the rain dance. And then there was Arthur, and Arthur was arguably cringier than, like, I would sooner leave in the joke about a rain dance than I would Arthur at this point, if I'm fully honest, because literally Laurel comes out, shows them the speech, and is walking away, and he's just leering at her. And to the movie's credit, Chapman as a character is like, dude, quit undressing her with your eyes. Like, and Arthur's response is, have you slept with her yet? Like,
it's like, dude.
But I did
I'll be honest.
Oh,
I'll be honest. When I first watched it, I kind of may have cheered along about the fact that Arthur didn't make it because of that.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely felt. I think I actually have a note. One of my notes while watching this is like, well, Arthur died. Oh darn! I'm so upset. Anyway, like, that's just how I felt. I did not care at all that Arthur, got shot by the Japanese pilots. But that did lead to Senator Chapman going in to talk to Laurel as she's typing up the speech, because she's written it out. So now she's going to type it up.
Yep.
And I love this interplay between the two of them because, again, it gives us their relationship to a T.
I don't know, I just don't fire you.
Because I'm the best political assistant you'll find, and you're still more interested in politics than sex.
So right there, we get him, and to his, again, to Senator Chapman's credit as a character, he has no interest in it.
Yes.
In sleeping with his aide. And
I do.
But he jokes about it. He's like, I don't know why I keep you around. Why? Like, and she's just like, because I'm good at what I do, and you care more about actually doing the politics than anything else. And then Charlie chimes in with like, yep, that's right, with a couple of barks.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. I do love how the fact it tells us pretty much everything we need to know about the relationship. It also tells us everything that we need to know about the morality of Chapman's character.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like all just in like one short, super short exchange, super simple exchange, just bam. Oh, okay. Well, that clearly tells us that Chapman is very much on the straight and narrow and not likely to do any stupid hanky-panky that was probably very common at the time.
Yeah.
Which puts him,
it makes him likable. It makes him likable.
Yeah.
All the time. Like he doesn't, it's not it's a little bit of a product. Like, oh, he was just a guy back then. And then, no, he's like Senator Chapman is a good person and I like him. And Arthur gets shot by the Japanese fighter pilots and I don't care. So it's all fine.
It's all great.
One demerit for Senator Chapman. I'm sorry, but he does have this moment.
Charlie?
Forget about the dog. It'll be all right.
Don't forget about the dog. Make sure you know where the damn dog is. To Charlie's credit, Charlie, as soon as things went sideways and he knew, like that dog knew, and he just like, I'm out.
That dog knew.
He took off and hid somewhere.
Yep. Charlie would go, nope, and just
he noped right on out of there because that's a good boy.
Yeah. And you can, I know, like after like the first time, you kind of understood that, and then like you kind of tell when something was about to happen.
Yeah,
you were never sure what, but like the dog was your tell.
Yes. Which, like, honestly, in our proposed remake of this, play with that a little bit.
The dog.
Play with that a little bit more and have the dog do more. And the dog is definitely a major character.
Oh yeah, very much so.
So, I always talk about you have to take IMDb trivia with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Always, right? Any sort of internet trivia you have to take with a grain of salt.
100%.
This in particular, because look, I am a person of a certain age, so when I hear the words "the final countdown,"
I think
something plays in my head. A little melody plays in my head.
Yeah, I know.
You know what it is.
Same here.
If you hear the final countdown, also you being from the state of Michigan, you probably grew up, if you watched basketball at all, the Detroit Pistons.
Growing up, no, I did not watch much sports. But
okay, so
I'm aware of what you're still
when I was growing up, the Detroit Pistons were the bad boys of the NBA, and they were introduced for their games with a song playing in the arena. Because of that, and because I'm of the proper age to know this song, if I hear the words "the final countdown," this is immediately what plays in my head. You can't say "the final countdown" in succession, and I don't hear. Sorry, it just happens. It's Pavlovian at this point.
So okay. So two things, real quick. Because I cannot find anywhere why, like the origins of the name for either the song or the movie, and why it was called that.
I can't either.
But there's in the back of my mind, I do have to wonder if somebody from Europe, from the band Europe, happened to watch that movie.
So you say that. Here is a verbatim piece of trivia from the IMDb page of the film, The Final Countdown. The movie's title inspired Swedish rock band Europe to write the song The Final Countdown in 1986.
I don't buy that.
There is nothing whatsoever to indicate this that I could find. I could not find anything that gave me that. In fact, if you go to the Wikipedia page, again, grain of salt, people can all that. But if you go to the page on the song "The Final Countdown" from Europe, it talks about the fact that melody, this, I'm going to play the hell out of that, by the way. That little melody was written by the guy from Europe in around the early 80s, but independent of this movie. He just had that melody kind of floating around. And later on, when they were working on their album and they were trying to come up with, the story goes that they wanted to have some like big anthem-y thing to open their live concerts with. Yeah. And their bass player was like, dude, you got that melody. Let's make that into a song. And so they took that and they wrote it into the song "The Final Countdown." So when I read this trivia thing today, it says the movie's title inspired Swedish rock band to write the song "The Final Countdown." I'm like, no, it did not. I don't think there's anything connecting the two of these. I think it's just somebody thought, oh, "The Final Countdown" was a movie that came out in the 80s and this song came out in the 80s. And so, of course, the movie "The Final Countdown" inspired somebody to write. No, it didn't.
So,
it didn't.
No.
Just purely didn't. But great song.
I will be honest. When I was talking to you about this one, I was curious as to if this was going to come up, and it did.
I may have even told somebody.
Even today, I'm like, I really, really wonder if he's going to bring that up.
I may have even mentioned to somebody within the last 24 hours, hey, I'm watching for my show tomorrow night, I'm watching "The Final Countdown," and that person responded with do. Yes, it happens every time. Every time I was looking at posters for this or reading about it, that was running through my head the whole time. So it's what it is.
To be fair, for a while after I first saw this, I had the same problem. I had the exact same problem. I'm too young to have heard Final Countdown when it first came out, but the internet has everything now.
It does,
so it's easy to find.
There's also a great. I have another version of it, so I actually have the Final Countdown, like an MP3 of it, but I also have an MP3 of DJ. I want to say it's DJ Yoda. Was doing like a mix thing, and he used that melody in one of his songs with some like record scratches and stuff, and it's great. So like I always hear a mishmash of the two songs, DJ Yoda's cover sample, and then the actual
there are a very, very select number of musical pieces that will get me to react in very, very interesting ways. One of them, this one, Final Countdown, I just start twitching occasionally.
It's just so.
There's another one.
Recognizable.
There's another one. Yeah, there's a couple other ones that when I heard them in college for the first time after years of not hearing it, my head had snapped so fast to the person that I was honest to God afraid I had given myself whiplash by accident.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like it was like almost like supersonic speeds because my head went here to here in about less than a tenth of a second. It's like, okay, that actually kind of hurt, but okay, my head feels better.
That synthesizer melody is one of those things that is the 1980s in sound. Like if somebody says to you the 1980s, you hear it's just that is the sound of the 80s, like one of them, right? It's Where's the Beef? It's a few different things. So yeah, I will never not think of that song when thinking about this movie. Just letting you know.
To be fair, after I saw the movie the first time, I still, even now, have our time not disassociating the two.
Yep, just they're tied together forever. So
I
won't play the song. I won't play the sound anymore, though. You've heard it enough, but just know, like, all right, one more. Okay, I'm good.
You're not.
One little other piece of trivia that I found interesting was apparently they had an alternate ending for this movie at one point.
Yes, I heard about
Where when they came back to present day, everything had changed. Like things had changed, and it didn't test well. And I
that.
kind of
That's
get
the
that.
ending I want. Yeah, I get that, but that's also the thing I think I would have rather had.
I think you have
I
to
don't know.
change a few things that happen throughout the movie to do it. Now,
Mm.
again, in our proposed remake, I think what we do is we have, because we're making this now, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
that's what's happening. But we have a few different things happen in the past, but when they come back, it's a small changes,
Yeah.
small changes of things that they see when they get back. But I get why, especially in 1980, 1979 era, like that idea didn't fly.
Yeah.
People didn't really want to see that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, this is a fun
Today, though,
movie.
yeah.
Like this was a cool movie. I'm glad you brought this up to me because, like I said, I in the back of my mind knew about it from Film Sack, that podcast, but it had just kind of went in one ear and out the other, and I never paid attention to it again. And maybe had heard somebody mention it here or there, but I knew nothing about it. So it was fun to actually get to watch this because, again, I love a fun little time travel romp, and I love a silly, out there
Well,
sci-fi story. I think
and
is
that
always
was
fun.
okay. So I'll be honest, because that was the other reason why I was like really happy that you said when you and I were talking, like it was a week or two ago. Like I was like, "Hey, which one?"
Mhm.
And you're like, "Oh, this one." I was very happy about that when you said that because the last few World War II movies we did, they were all very serious, very dark, and this one I knew was going to be kind of campy and like very much on the lighthearted side,
Yeah.
like lighter-hearted side. So I knew that this was going to be a nice break from a nice departure from all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because just recently I watched 1917, which is World War One.
What?
But like, it's a fantastic movie, but also it's a heavy movie. There's a lot that goes on in that, and this was
I haven't
like,
seen it, but I also know enough about it to know that it's a very heavy movie. If I ever, whenever I get around to watching it, it's gonna be a one and done, much like Dunkirk was supposed to be.
yes, yeah, I can see that. I think 1917 is a little bit more rewatchability because there is an uplifting end to it. But this, what I liked about this is a movie that prominently features the Navy, and it prominently features World War II era. Yet it's just like this silly little, hey, what would happen if, like, again, it's that 5-page story of like an aircraft carrier ran into a weird cosmic storm and ended up in 1941 for a day. And they wanted to do something about Pearl Harbor, but they couldn't get a hold of anyone to actually warn them because their radios didn't work with the present day technology. So they couldn't get a hold of anybody. And by the time they kind of figured out what was happening, they tried to do something about it, but it was too late and they had to go back. So I like that whole idea. I do think too, it's worth a watch. Just know it's going to be a slower movie, but it's available. It's on Prime. It's on Peacock.
It's on a couple places.
Yeah, and you can watch it. It's an hour and a half long. It's not that long.
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas is great. Martin Sheen is great. Charles Durning is always fun.
I will say, as relatively because this was a relatively non-violent one too.
Mm-hmm.
World War II movie, which is kind of an incredible thing to achieve, especially given they went back to 1941. I gotta tell you though, the other one that I had proposed to you, and we'll get to that next time that you have me on here. But the other one is even more non-violent, hilariously enough.
Huh. All right.
So, there's a little bit here and there, but it's like not bad. It is literally probably one of the least violent, probably the least violent World War II movie that you could find today, which is kind of saying something.
Yeah, that
not
is
that
actually
a bar to throw it, but still, it's really saying something. Oh, hey, a fairly bloodless, violentless World War II movie. So
And look, it's a fun movie. Like it's
it is.
it's
This is a fun movie.
absolutely,
This
I
is a great
think,
movie. There's a
yeah.
reason why I will still occasionally throw it on to like I've thrown it on the background, since my first watch to rewatch it again just because hey I needed something lighthearted and fun to put on and while I was working on other things I could watch it without having to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, a lot of stuff happens without a lot of things going on. So it's a perfect movie for that. And just again, toss logic out the window. You don't need it here.
Yeah.
There's no logic to be involved. It's time travel. Just enjoy the silly time travel shenanigans. But yeah, I had a fun time. So thank you for bringing this up to my attention and having me watch this.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome.
Always fun.
I had an enjoyable time talking about this with you because this is one of those oldies but goodie, an oldie but a goodie.
Mhm.
It's firmly in that list for me it's an old one, but it's a very good one to just occasionally throw on for the TV.
Yeah, I even had a couple of people, on social media be like, "Yeah, I remember that movie. It was kind of, I don't remember it being great, but maybe I should rewatch it. It probably wasn't terrible." And that's kind of where I put it. Like, it is not a great movie. I'm not saying rush out and find the final countdown and watch it, but if somebody wants to watch it, or you happen to be in a mood for some time travel silliness, it's worth doing.
Oh yeah.
Now, I am closing in on my 300th episode
Yes, you are.
of this show. It's going to be happening in just a couple of weeks, in fact. So if you are listening to this and you have the opportunity to, I would love to hear from you about your favorite or your least favorite or the funniest or the dumbest, whatever moment from this show in the 300 episodes that I've done. That stands out to you. So whether it is via Twitter or Blue Sky, which is probably where I'm most active right now, or Threads, or via email at tvstravis@gmail.com, let me know what do you think of when you think of this show? Because I would love to talk about some of those on my 300th episode, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks. 300 episodes still just boggles my mind that I've stuck around.
How many years?
This.
So that's how many years?
300 episodes in just under 6 years.
6 years. That's impressive.
So
probably was a lot. You probably didn't have to do much to change things all during COVID since it was all over.
Yeah. It was all being done this way to begin with. So when COVID hit, it really wasn't a big change. But yeah, started in 2019 and 5.5 years and 300 episodes later. I mean, here we are. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and that is going to be a fun episode, by the way. Now, next week is episode 299, which is also going to be a fun episode because Alex of the Horse Girls podcast is coming on, and I am getting her to watch Big, and I can't wait.
Oh.
She's never seen Big before.
Ooh,
this is going to be fun. This is a classic for a reason, and it's Tom Hanks and it's 80s, and it's awesome.
Yeah. I can't believe that they never saw Big.
I know.
I've seen Big.
I know. When I first got a hold of all of them, and we were tossing back and forth, like, well, what are we going to do? And it got mentioned. I was like, oh, it's perfect. Let's do it. Big. So that's what's happening next week. Next week is episode 299, and it's Big with Alex of the Horse Girls podcast. I've had Tim and Jenna on from that show, so we're going to get the last of the three of them. And man, I haven't watched Big in a while, so I'm excited to go back and rewatch it. It's one that I think about every so often. It's just a memorable 80s kind of time capsule movie. So that's great.
That's always fun.
What are you working on, or if anything, do you have anything you want to tell people about?
I'm not working on anything right now, but I will be sure to let you know next time I'm on when I am, because I do have a couple things coming up because a friend of mine should be getting ready to start doing another Shadowrun-esque campaign
Oh, nice.
sometime in the new year that I've sort of already told them, hey, I'm willing to help in the background and not be a player this time because things keep happening in some of those missions and it just doesn't work out right sometimes.
It's always how it goes. Well, definitely the next time you're on, we'll be able to promote that. But always wonderful having you here. It was a great conversation.
Thank you. Of course.
Thank you for bringing this movie to my attention and getting me to watch it. And we'll do this again. We'll do it again with something maybe less time travel-y, but probably still World War II.
Yes, it is.
We seem to.
It is.
It seems to be you and I either talk about World War II or Spider-Man. So,
I mean,
we've got
at
a
this point
thing.
I've seen, yeah, we have a thing. We'll have to break the mold at some point.
Probably. Maybe we'll see. We'll see.
In the
But
spring.
yeah, and again, if you have a moment or a memory of this show that stands out to you, please send it to me because I want to hear it. It really.
Yeah, of course.
I do this show because I enjoy doing it, and
I enjoy catching it live when I can. So,
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you watching it live, and I appreciate you being on the show. Everybody that does watch and listen, I appreciate all of you. You can find this show and everything that I work on at tvstravis.com, which has this show. It has Those Were the Days. It has Gore. And Let's Watch Highlander is still on there, which we have wrapped up because we ran out of content to talk about. There's no more Highlander stuff until the new movie comes out, but that's there. And I'm always looking for new stuff to work on. I've got some projects in the works that are going to be happening, live episodes on location. I'm going to be going back to Las Vegas and looking to do it there. I was live on location at Dragon Con this past year, and I'm looking to do that again. One of the things that helps those happen is the Patreon. So if you are able to, if all you're able to do is listen to the show, I appreciate that. And the show will always be free, and I have no plans to run ads in this feed at this point because I just like doing this show. But if you can back the show and help me to be able to afford to go to places like Dragon Con in Vegas and do these shows live in front of an audience, you can do that at patreon.com/WYHS. You can also find the link for that on tvstravis.com. And that does go a long way. Plus, I've started, finally, the first episode of it actually is posted this week, Travis's Watch Diaries. I am going through and watching limited miniseries and giving an episode-by-episode breakdown. I'm starting it with The Fall of the House of Usher. So episode 1 of my Watch Diary of The Fall of the House of Usher from 2023 is now in the feed, and that will be a patron exclusive. So you have to join the Patreon to get those. So if you want that, they're shorter. They're about 10, 15 minutes long. And there'll be other things getting added into that feed as well as I kind of go. So if you can do that, that's great. That's at patreon.com/WYHS. But if you can't, if you just listen to the show, I still greatly, greatly appreciate that. And I'll keep doing this show for as long as people want to listen to me yammer on about movies. So yeah, I've got some fun stuff coming up with Alex, and episode 300 is going to have Phil Keating and Amy Frost coming back as they take me through the Wes Anderson world, which is going to be super, super fun. Anyway, Nizzbit, thank you for being here this week. This was a ton of fun.
Of course. As always is.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon, and I'll be back next week. So until then, just remember to enjoy your movies. And it's coming up on the holiday season. We're in the holiday season. Let's be excellent to each other. There's been a weight you haven't seen.
Splash the zeros. I say again, splash the zeros.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And that pilot was all about smashing them zeros.
Yes, he was.